Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Fight the spread and take a stand against coronavirus. Wear a mask in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others. And get tested. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdheck.gov/COVID-19.
Happy Thursday. You are watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. As you heard, it's brought to you by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connection. Well, today, your stimulus check questions are answered by Kadena Javis. She's with Javis Financial Services, and she's here to answer them and tell us what's new for the new tax season. Kadena, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tre. Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. Plus, we'll talk impeachment with both sides of the aisle. Eaddy Willard with the Richland, with the Republican County Party is with us, and Walter Reed with the Richland County Party, Democratic Party is here. Both of them will talk about impeachment. That's coming up next. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Both of them next, but first, your COVID community updates. D.C. is being locked down ahead of the inauguration with concerns of violence and unrest, not to mention a health pandemic. Law enforcement and other entities are taking early precaution. Over 20,000 National Guard members have been activated. Police are already sealing off a large area of downtown near the White House. Parking garages are being closed, and many hotels, including Airbnbs that are either closed or refusing to book guests into the D.C. area. Here in South Carolina, law enforcement is collaborating to provide security for all state and federal buildings. And Mayor Steve Benjamin says the safety of all citizens is top priority. National Guards are also on alert if needed. All of this after the president is impeached for the second time, for the first time in history. Since there will be no trial scheduled this week or next, this does not remove him from office. It does not affect any of his pardons, but when the trial does take place, it would convict him of inciting insurrection on the Capitol and disqualify him from ever holding office. To talk about this from both sides of the aisle, Eaddy Willard joins us. She is the chair of the Richland County Republican Party and third vice chair of the Richland County Democratic Party, Walter Reed. Thank you both so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. So, Eaddy, I want to ask you first, how are Richland County Republicans feeling about the move to impeach the president?
Well, that's a great question, Tre. We have, of course, not taken any scientific polls, but I believe that most folks would prefer to move on to a peaceful transition of power and get on with the business of Congress and the government. There's a lot to be done.
Yeah. Is there a sense, and like you said, I mean, there's no scientific polls, as you said, that have been made, but is there a sense that you guys felt like this was the right thing to do?
in terms of what the House did in impeaching the president.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The sense that I get was that it was moot, that it was, there's still a lot that could be done in the next few days. And it was that the purpose of impeachment, if you look at the statute, is to remove someone from office. And that's happening very soon anyway, in just a few days. So I feel that most people felt like the time could have been spent better.
Right. Well, I do want to kind of piggyback on that a little bit. But first, I want to ask you about the one Republican that didn't. Voted for impeachment, didn't vote for not impeaching him. And
Right.
That was Tom Rice. What are you hearing about him or from him, or have you?
I have not talked to him myself. I have heard disappointment. In fact, I think our South Carolina Republican Party issued a statement about it. But everyone has to, I believe everybody has to vote their conscience. So, and I'm going to respect someone's vote, even if I disagree with it.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that. You said since there has been disappointment, isn't it okay if he pulls away from the fray, so to speak?
What do you mean by pulling away from the fray?
From the party, from the majority of the party.
Every elected official, again, has to vote their conscience. They answer, he answers to his constituents. And I'm not one of his constituents. That's the 7th district, and we're up here I'm in the 2nd district. So Walter, hello, I have a great respect for your dad, or excuse me, your grandfather. Just wanted to say it's so great to meet you. I'm sure you're in the 6th district. So,
yes, ma'am.
It's, we, again, Congressman Rice, he answers to his constituents. So.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. So I do want to go to you.
Can y'all hear me okay?
I can hear you. It's just going in and out just a little bit. It's going in and out just a little bit. We're gonna roll with it, Eaddy. Thank you so much. So Walter, I want to ask you from the other side of the aisle. Do you think the president is responsible for insurrection, which is what he was impeached on?
Yes, ma'am. That is something that I can definitely agree with. I think I have here what he actually said, which was as he was urging and talking to an already angry mob, he said the quote, "Fight like hell." Sorry if that's a bad word. I'm sorry. But what he said was "fight like hell." And what Republicans were saying were that, that's just something to rile up the crowd. That's just something to motivate the individuals. But the thing is that I believe that President Trump knows exactly the power that he holds, and the words that he says carry that same amount of power. I believe that he also knew the type of power that his words have, especially when we saw back, I believe it was Texas, where all those poor individuals were shot. And I believe what the shooter said, or what he wrote, was a manifesto, which had a lot of the quotes, a lot of the points that the president made in many of his speeches. So President Trump is known that just little things that he says can incite a riot, which we saw on the 6th. So it is up to him he has that responsibility to, I guess, quote, watch what he says.
Right.
Because we know what can happen when the wrong things are said.
Paula Barfield Hughes is watching. Also, Sharetta Thomas. Want to thank both of you ladies for commenting and for watching. Want to encourage everyone to post and share this information out so we can get it to the masses. Such an important conversation to have. Eaddy, what about you? I mean, you mentioned earlier that, what the point of impeachment is to get the person out. But what do you and, of course, the Richland County Democratic Republican Party feel about the president being responsible for insurrection, and as Walt said, that his words have power?
Great question. I appreciate that, Trey. A couple of things. One, anyone who's been working in politics, whether as a volunteer or an elected official, you do have to understand that your words matter. On the other hand, President Trump was elected in 2016 because he was not a politician. And, he was a businessman. And I think, there were an awful lot of folks that wanted something different. And the other thing I would say is, one, we're also all responsible for our own individual actions. And there were tens of thousands of people who went to that rally first, who I've talked to two people who said it was spiritual. They said a prayer first, sang the Pledge of Allegiance, and then they got back on the bus and went home. So, I don't remember. And then
there were the people who didn't go home, right?
Exactly. I'm work Congress. I worked there, so there are no words to describe how horrified I was, and unbelievable. But there also, and I don't remember the Texas example that you mentioned, Walter, but we also know that sometimes crazy people take things out of context. I mean, I'm sure Robert De Niro had no idea that his movie Taxi Cab. Walter probably doesn't remember this, but that his movie Taxi would incite someone to try to kill the president, if I'm remembering the assassination attempt correctly. So, we all have to be responsible for our own actions. And anyone who listened to President Trump talk about the rule of law, and the Republicans support first and foremost the rule of law because that prevents this kind of violence, knows that would not be what any Republican or what the president stood for. I also was listening to an interview last night of a retired U.S. prosecutor who actually prosecuted terrorists for insurrection, and they said this does not come to the legal, what would you say, the legal platform, or whatever the right word is, to do so. But it's let's make no mistake, that was absolutely horrific as to what happens. But it's always helpful to step back and know the facts first. We now know that there were people trying to break into the Capitol while the president was speaking, or actually before the president was speaking. It's good to just gather the facts first before we jump to judge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've got to go in a couple of minutes because you've got another meeting. But while this happened on the 6th, I think the president's words had power before the 6th. He was pushing constantly the message. They've stolen the election from you. We've got to fight. We've got to do what's right. So while, you may be right, it happened while he was speaking. This was
I think you're right. That's an excellent point. And that's also why I think all politicians need to remember that their words have meaning and power, because, we've heard that language to inspire volunteers to do work for campaigns. We've heard that from politicians, from candidates for years. And I don't know if it's because maybe we all need to look at, do we need that kind of inspiration to go act, or should we act because it's the right thing to do in terms of volunteering for the candidate, working in public service, not writing. So I think that's, I've heard many examples on all sides of candidates who've used that kind of language. And they never mean for it to be literal. We say things that are not meant to be taken literal all the time.
Yeah. Well, Eaddy, we've got to have a conversation when you have more time, because I've got all kind of things to say for that. But in the last 30 seconds that we have with you and Walt, I want to get your input on this too. So, Eaddy, if not impeachment, what? What do you think, if you think there should be a consequence to his words, his actions?
I'm certainly not a lawyer and I'm not an expert at this. But again, I'm old enough to remember the impeachment of President Nixon. And I remember that President Ford, I'm not sure if it was actually impeached or if he resigned before he was impeached, but the important thing was that President Ford pardoned him. And a lot of folks were mad at that, but it allowed the country to leave that issue and move forward. And I think we're at an issue where we all need to move forward. I don't know if you saw the State of the State address last night, but I think Governor McMaster made a great point. He said, make no mistake, we are all on the same team. We may wear different jerseys, have different principles and different policies, but we are all on the same team and we all want the same thing, the health, happiness, success of all 5 million South Carolinians. And I think that's, and nationally, all of our nation. So that's what we need to get to work for.
We do have one question for you before you go, and then Walt, I want to get your opinion. Maxine Moses wants to know if you would support his run in 2024, if he ran, if he is able to run.
You know, I just don't, I think that is something that folks are making up. I don't think he's going to run. I think it's time for both parties, I think, to pass the baton. Both parties have a great generation of young, knowledgeable, energetic candidates that are out there ready to run for 2024. And let's remember, the presidency takes a toll on one's health and one's age. We saw how much gray hair Barack Obama and George W. Bush and Bill Clinton all had from 8 years in the presidency. So for many reasons, you know, I don't think that will happen.
And if it does, would you? Because that's not a yes or a no.
I know. No, to be honest with you, I've picked out a candidate for 2024, and I can't say whom.
Okay.
But no, I'm voting for somebody else in the primary. Put it that way.
Is his or her last name Trump? Is it Eric Trump or Ivanka Trump?
No, it's Haley.
Okay. All right. Eaddy Willard. Right. That's interesting. That's an interesting, especially since you said you weren't going to say, so we got you to say. So,
that's right.
Eaddy,
that's my personal hope, and nothing official.
Eaddy Willard, chair of the Richland County Republican Party. I know you've got to go. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's talk again soon. Well, please hang around because I do want to ask you a couple of the questions that I asked Eaddy. What do you think should be the consequence for President Trump's words? Eaddy said that impeachment may not have been the right thing, but what do you think the consequence should have been?
Well, what the whole point of this impeachment process is to ensure that he is not able to hold public office again.
Right.
I believe that is what needs to be done. In terms of another avenue that he could go for would probably be to resign. But I honestly believe that his ego wouldn't allow him to do so. So in terms of the one and only process to go through would probably have to be impeachment. As she said, as Ms. Eaddy said before, I don't know if it will be successful in the Senate, but we at least need to try to hold people accountable for their actions, especially in the highest office in the land.
We hear a lot about that this was an inside job, that many elected officials, even law enforcement, had something to do with it. What do you think about that? And if that holds true, what do you think should happen with those folk?
Oh, yes. Oh, I agree with that 1,000%. This was surely an inside job. First, we saw with the Capitol Police, you saw as the protesters, at the time it was a protest, were coming in.
I don't know if it ever was a protest, Walt. I think it was always a riot.
Yeah.
But I digress. Go ahead, finish.
but you could kind of see, of course, they were throwing things, they were angry, but it was they always say the little things matter. So if you looked at the video, you could see that Capitol Police were high-fiving, hugging, looked like they were meeting up with old friends. There was one section in wherever they were, where they absolutely just let them through.
Yeah.
And let them do whatever they wanted to do. And even when their own fellow police officers were being mauled by this riot, there was no one to help them.
Right.
We actually saw with the black police officer who they stormed the Senate chambers. He looked to his left. He saw that the Senate chamber door was open. So went
the other way.
So he pushed him to kind of say, to start something, basically to distract.
Yeah.
And led them to go the other way. But you saw the whole time that he had no backup.
Right.
No one to help him.
Yeah.
So this was all an inside job in terms of the amount of police officers were there, and the particular House and Senate members who incited the violence by kind of cheering it on.
So last question, what should be the consequences for those folks that were inside that were responsible? Like I said, it was an inside job. Law enforcement, lawmakers.
Oh, well, they definitely need to be held accountable in terms of, honestly, expulsion.
Right.
That's the best way to be held accountable for your actions, to tell those who plan on running for future office that this is unacceptable. So expulsion. I don't even think a particular fine would do the job. They just need to not be able to hold that office or any other office again.
All right, Walter Clyburn Reed, third vice chair of the Richland County Democratic Party. I got to get you back on too, because I wanted to ask you a couple of more questions about your political aspirations and if your lineage has anything to do with your being interested in politics. But we've got Kadena coming on to talk about stimulus checks. And Walter, people want to know about their $600. So,
of course. Hopefully 2,000.
Yes.
So we'll see about that.
That's right. And I talked to your grandfather a couple of weeks ago when the stimulus bill was first passed. And he did say when they go back they're back now, when they go back after the inauguration, that will be one of the top priorities. So, we're crossing fingers, toes, and everything else, and look forward to having you back to talk about your political aspirations. Okay.
Of course.
Thank you. Walter Clyburn Reed, third vice chair of the Richland County Democratic Party. Thank you so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. I appreciate you, darling. I want to thank everybody for watching Coping with COVID. Thank you for your comments. Please continue to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. Rita Thomas, Maxine Moses, Barbara Bowman, Richard Miner, Mitchell Peace, Joy Jen. Thank you so much for joining us. Please post and share so that we can get the message to the masses. Coping with COVID is airing live, streaming live on the Tailor Made production page, also on Instagram and on YouTube. A couple of PSAs that I want to get to before we get Kadena Javis in here. Don't forget that SCDHEC has your most up-to-date listings of times, dates, and locations for COVID testing in and around South Carolina. Also, flu tests. You can also go to gogettested.com for locations and results within 48 hours. We've got a graphic that we can put up for that. Thank you, Lauren. Check the screen for information on organizing a COVID screening at your event or in your community. And all of this information will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. Now, don't forget that in-person COVID screening is offered by Richland and Clarendon County paramedics. You can call 911 for more information about that if you or someone you know is unable to get to a COVID screening. And then the DHEC Care Line is not only available for COVID information, transportation, but also COVID vaccine locations and times. Now, yesterday we did find that that line was off the chain. It was hard to access because so many people were finding out about vaccination. So that provides two opportunities. One, job opportunity, and two, for you to go ahead and get your information. Now, also on the screen is information about COVID vaccines at the Lexington Medical Center. And also, if you are a veteran, the VA has opportunities available for you to get your COVID vaccination. Again, you can see that information on the screen, and it will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. Prisma Health has flu vaccines available. And as we've heard, that it is very important to get your vaccine, especially now since we are in the midst of COVID. And then if you're having some problems with your rent or mortgage, SC Legal Services and South Carolina Bar Association have collaborated to offer free mortgage and rental assistance. Plus, the City of Columbia has a 6-month payment plan available for your water bills. And Rashonda Pratt is continuing to offer virtual learning and working help with her YouTube channel. If you know someone that is a graduating high school senior, the deadline is next month for the South Carolina Education Association, South Carolina Association of Counties. They've got an annual $2,500 scholarship available. And then the Richland One virtual job fair is tomorrow. There is a signing bonus available for bus drivers and special ed and foreign language teachers. So again, if you need a job, the Richland One virtual job fair is tomorrow. Also, as I mentioned yesterday, DHEC is also hiring with the vaccinations. They need folks that are medical and admin help, nurses, paramedics, also, again, administrative help. You can see that information on the screen. A lot of people are out of a job and they are jobs available. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. As I said to Walt a couple of minutes ago, we spoke to Congressman Clyburn a few days ago about the current stimulus deal. He said he didn't think it was stimulated anything, and that when they do come back, they hope to work on a real deal. This is, of course, in response to the $600 payment. And what about that payment? Many said they got it in their bank accounts quick. Some people still have not gotten their $600, and they want to know where it's at. To answer that question, Kadena Javis is with us with Javis Tax Services. Her face is beat to heaven. I love your makeup today, girlfriend. How are you doing?
I am good, Tre. I am good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
I was known for Kadena, but I had to record another today. I'm like, well, that's not good. I mean, cute for Tre show.
Yes. So listen, where are these people? A lot of people did get their checks already, right, Kadena?
A lot of people have not gotten their checks. A lot of people did get their checks. Ironically, December 31, my mom was showing that her account is pending. But
oh wow!
Yet when I went online, it said January 6th it was going to be mailed. Well, I'm not sure if taxpayers have watched the news, but I know I saw this week where the postal services are 3 to 4 weeks behind. So with that being said, I talked to an old supervisor at the IRS. She told me, she's like, they're telling people February 1st. If you don't have it by February 1st, give them a call. So don't waste time. Right. Because I mean, if it's being mailed, and then just because you got it the first time direct deposit, we're being told that's not necessarily the way you're going to get it the second time. You know, they do what they want to do, and I know that WLTX have been intentional by letting folks know that they're also going to be mailing out debit cards with the $600 or whatever your amount is for your household on those cards in some envelopes that may not be familiar to you. That is like, don't throw them away. So I'm glad that they are putting that in the media.
Yeah, your volume is in and out. Let me ask you this, Kadena. Can you turn down your volume a little bit? I think if you turn it down, that might help a little bit. So just just to recap what you said, you're saying the IRS says if you think you are going to get it mailed, one, don't call them until February 1st because of the delay in the mail. It may not be until February 1st. The other thing that you're saying is that just because you got a direct deposit last time may not mean you're going to get direct deposit this time. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I turned the volume down to 38 from
and
60.
That sounds better.
I don't know if that's
it does sound a little bit better. Yeah. But can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Here's the other question I didn't ask you. You don't have earbuds on, do you?
No, I do not.
Okay. So and then you said the other thing you said is that they are still doing the debit card, the plastic. You may get a plastic in the mail, so be sure to watch out for that. You may be getting something that is the debit card like they did before.
Yes. Also, Trey, I wanted to bring up, because I know you had this question the last time I was on your show about folks who didn't get the correct amount.
Right.
Well, we 2020 tax software. If you have not gotten the correct amount, you can reconcile and get the recovery rebate credit. It'll be added to your taxes.
Okay, so say that again, because I did that. I was going to ask you about that. So they can file, what is the form?
No, when they file their 2020 taxes, there's a question. The form is called recovery rebate credit.
Okay.
So you get 1,800, but you only got 12. You can get that additional 600 with your tax return.
All right. This is Kadena Javis. She is with Javis Tax Service. She's telling us, giving us an update about the stimulus check. And I know she's breaking up a little bit. So I just want to reiterate what she said. If you didn't get the correct amount, because I did have that question last time, you can, when you file your 2020 income taxes, you can actually file for to get it.
Yes. And it's the recovery rebate credit form.
Recovery rebate credit. So again, if you did not get the correct amount, now what about if you didn't get it at all yet? Can you still file that?
Yes, you put 0, and then the 1,200, 1,800, whatever the amount for your family household, that's what you'll get. That credit will be included on your tax return.
Okay. Now, of course, this is for the first check because it came in 2020. We'll deal with the next one. If you didn't get your $600, we'll deal with that at the end of the year. But so again, that's great information to know. Now, this time, Kadena, the same people qualified this time as last time?
Yes, they did not change the rules. If you were over 17, you did not receive it. The same rules apply this time, unfortunately.
Okay.
Hopefully when Congress and we get the new package, that will change. But
okay. So this was even, I remember from last time, anyone, and it didn't matter whether you filed your taxes or not, because all income levels were able to qualify. I know an issue was a lot of people who weren't filers and didn't have any information online with the IRS. They still qualified, but because the IRS didn't have any income tax information, there was a challenge getting them their check.
It was. The IRS had a task force that came up with a non-filers EIP form, and the EIP was for the economic injury payment, and there was a non-filer. So all we had to do is the only qualification to get it, you just needed to have a social security number, and you had to be a U.S. citizen. So I know that we had put out to transitions and some of the I think it was about 11 shelters that you had taxpayers that had a social, they were U.S. citizens. Please give them this form, let them go online, and they can have their the checks mailed to wherever to the shelter, and the shelter would deliver the checks to them.
Oh, wow. Okay. So people can go ahead and do that. Now, so is there some place, and you said don't call until February for this one. So who do people call on February 1st?
Well, the taxpayer number is 1-800-829-1040. But be ready to be on hold, because of course, everybody else is calling February 1st.
Yeah.
Maybe on your Bluetooth, and if you're working or you're driving, just know that you're going to be on hold. I've never called the IRS. Now, I want to tell you, the taxpayers, this: if you call 7:30 in the morning, you may very well get in. They tell you not to call till 8, but we learned to call 7:30. We may get lucky if somebody pick up the phone and help us. And our wait is not as long.
The Taxpayer Advocacy Office. Call at 7:30, Kadena says. But if you don't call right at 7:30 or before 8 o'clock, expect to be on hold. Tell us that phone number again. And Lauren, if you can grab the number and put it on the screen, that would be great. What's the tax advocacy number again, Kadena?
Dial 800-829-1040.
829-1040, 1-800-829-1040. That's the tax advocacy number if you have a question about your stimulus check. 800-829-1040. And Kadena says call them about 7:30 in the morning. So when they call the tax advocacy office, what happens then?
Well, you're going to have to verify your identity. You're going to have to go through, the steps to verify your identity. And also, before I would call the trade, our taxpayers need to know they can go to irs.gov and put in to at least research and see where their tax check is in the process. Like all you need is you put in your social, maybe your filing status. And mine told me my first one came July 31st, and the second one is to be mailed January the 6th.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna call.
Because it told you what was going on.
Right. And if they're mailing it January 6th, I just saw on the news where the United Postal Service is weeks behind from Christmas, and also just because of COVID, of the pandemic, because people are home and shopping.
Yeah.
People are home. They actually mailed Christmas cards. That's what they said on the news.
Yes, I heard that some people are still getting their Christmas cards. Yeah.
So I looked at the calendar. Okay. Well, that's why they said wait until February 1st. That's about 3 weeks from when it was supposed to be mailed.
Right.
So, patient, us being angry and not being patient is not going to make the check come in faster.
Yeah. Kadena Javis joins us with Javis Tax Service. She's been talking about the stimulus check. Again, the number for the tax advocacy number is 800-829-1040, 800-829-1040. You can give them a call if you have a question about your stimulus check. But Kadena is saying go to the IRS website and you can find out what the status is of your check. You'll need, some identification, your tax status, and you should be able to see on their website if and when they are going to send your stimulus check. And if you still have questions, wait until February 1st, because they're still trying to get your Christmas cards to you. And then you can call the tax advocacy number at 800-829-1040. Kadena Javis is with us with Javis Financial Services. We're going to come back with Kadena and talk about how this stimulus check is going to affect our taxes or last stimulus check and any changes that are coming up with the next tax season. That's coming up next on Coping with COVID. Thank you, Kadena. We'll be right back.
Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
People will be able to look 100 years from now. They will know how we got over. This makes it even more important that we shine this light.
Part of it also wasn't the fact that we couldn't have the physical graduation, but I also couldn't celebrate with my family out of town.
For me, I feel like this is a new normal. This is not going away anytime soon, I don't think.
Anything that's happened before can happen again. And the same thing is at play with this virus.
You know, we are no longer in a building, and we've talked about church being, with us, in us.
Have you traveled abroad late in the past 6 months? We were trying to trace it back as early as November.
You're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina, Palmetto Media Connections, and Agape Counseling and Training Center. Listen, if you're having some challenges coping with COVID, I thoroughly believe in mental health, so please contact the folks at Agape Counseling and Training Center. Plus, I told you earlier about the Richland 1 job fair. The job fair is actually on the 23rd, and the deadline to register for the job fair is tomorrow on the 15th. So you have to register by tomorrow on the 15th in order to participate in the virtual job fair for Richland 1, which is on January 23rd. Thank you so much, Lauren, for updating that information. We're talking to Kadena Javis with Javis Tax Services, and she's been telling us about this $600 stimulus check. Just to kind of go back, just tell us kind of some of the quick points that you just gave us, Kadena. If you don't have your check now, what do you need to do?
If you do not have your check now, I would go to irs.gov, and they have the tab out there that where's my refund, and you check the one for the EIP, which is the economic injury payment. And you can put your filing status, let you know when you got your first one and when you're going to get your second one, or at least when the IRS is releasing it. I'm not going to say when you're going to have it.
Right.
They're going to release it. Right. And if you don't see any information out there, Tre, that would probably be because if you filed your taxes and you financed your service and you had your payment to your accountant come out of your refund, then there would be that information is delayed, because what is happening, the IRS will not send checks to the accountant. If the bank, yes. So they send checks to the bank's doing 360, 180, whatever, turn around quick, fast, and sending those checks back to the IRS, and then the IRS is going to make those checks. So that is another delay. So I will say, if you did not pay your accountant up front for your service, that will be a hold up and delay, because the bank, you financed your product. So that means that the bank has to separate your fee from your refund. The bank is not going to be responsible, and they don't want us accountants being responsible, which is a great thing for cutting checks. So they immediately sending those funds back to the IRS. So then the IRS is sending out and mailing checks.
Okay, so that's a good point. If you, as you say, finance your refund, sometimes people will say, go to some of these services that get the refund early. So even though that money was in your bank account, the IRS is not going to put that money in your bank account, because you didn't really get it from the IRS. You got it from the company that did your taxes. That's what you're saying, basically, right? Okay.
The third party.
Right, third party. Right. So in that case, you probably are going to get either something in the mail, whether it be a debit card or a paper check, probably a debit card.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
The other, go ahead. Sorry, Kadena.
I was saying they don't have, you can do a direct deposit.
Right.
A direct deposit financed your service. So that's where the tricky part comes in. Well, I had direct deposit. You did, but somebody had to manually separate when your funds came in from the IRS. Somebody had to manually take out your prep fee, send to your accountant, and take the rest of the remainder refund, put the direct deposit to your account. So
that's good information. Yeah, that's good information to know, because a lot of people do use that third party. The other thing you said is that you will get perhaps they are doing the debit cards again. And because you're still getting your Christmas cards, the post office has been delayed. You probably won't get it for a while. But if you don't get it by February 1st, that's when you need to call. And that number is scrolling on the screen. It is 800. I don't know what it's 1-800-829-1040, 1-800-829-1040. So that is the tax advocacy number. And you can contact the tax advocacy number if you have a question. But like you said, you can also go to irs.gov, right? Yes. Kadena Javis joins us.
Taxpayers also.
Go ahead, Kadena. I'm sorry.
Switch gears a little bit about the PPP loans. But before we go there, unemployment, tax refunds this year. Please, when you perform from the unemployment office in whatever state you're in, please turn it into your accountant. That is taxable income. If you file your taxes and you receive unemployment and you do not report it, you're going to hold up your tax return. A lot of people are thinking that I got unemployment, I shouldn't have to report it. I promise you, it's being reported to the IRS. And if you don't report it, and then you go looking for your tax refund, then you're gonna have to go pay your accountant again to do an amendment, because that's another fee, that's another service. So just do it. I will say this too, Trey. With the pandemic, some people may receive less refunds this year.
Really?
Because some people received income unemployment working. I mean, a prime example of, I got a manager, but they may make $15,000. They have made $25,000 in unemployment because we had that extra $600 in federal money. So that was added, $120. That's the max in South Carolina. So you had some people that got paid $926 a week from March to August. That's not putting them in another tax bracket. So that is going to reduce. That is going to reduce their refund. If they have children,
could it reduce it down to zero? Could it reduce it down to zero?
Not zero, but we did a test run at the office. And with that example that I just gave you, where that manager would have received $8,700, this year they will only receive $5,300.
Okay. All right. So you've got to, if you filed unemployment, if you got unemployment, you have got to report that income to your tax preparer, because it will affect. And listen, you can do it now and not, maybe you won't get caught, but the IRS is going to do what they're going to do to you. So, and it might even affect, right, because it could affect subsequent stimulus checks too, right? Because if you owe the IRS or you have not filed, you won't get anything else that you think may be due to you, right?
That is true. So as well, that being held up too, you won't get your stimulus if you hadn't filed. But I just don't want taxpayers to think that they're getting over, swindling, anything, thinking that I'm not going to file it because I need my $8,000.
Right.
You won't get it anyway because that unemployment money, there was a workshop they already had with us accountants letting us know who all, they turned their paperwork into the IRS in November.
Right. Kadena, I'm going to ask you one more question because your signal is really, really bad. We can kind of hear every other word, but I'm just trying to go over what I hear you say. But I do want to ask this, because you talked about unemployment. And what about the PPP loan? Was that something else that is going to affect taxes this year?
No, it's going to be a good thing. We will be allowed to write off our expenses from any expenses that we used with the income that we received from the PPP. Business owners will be allowed to write off those expenses. There was talk one time that we would not be able to write it off, but now it has been solidified in the Consolidated Appropriations Act 2021 that we will be able to write off those expenses from our PPP. And another good thing this round too, Trey, folks that has a NAIC code beginning with 72, and NAIC is just your business industry code, they are able to get 3.5 times their payroll, where the normal everybody else only gets 2.5. But if your industry is, I think it's the hospitality, starts with a 72
right,
code,
because they were so affected,
they'll be able to get 3.5 times their payroll.
Anything else we need to be? That is awesome. Anything else we need to be aware of, Kadena, as far as our taxes? Anything that changed, whether it be because of the stimulus check or the pandemic, or just because it's 2020?
Tax-wise, all of the standard deductions still stand. They will be 25. The law that Trump signed into Act December of 2018. So everything that he did then is still into effect now, which doubling the standard deduction has become a plus and advantage for taxpayers. We did have a couple increases by about $150 on each filing status. Nothing else major besides the PPP part. Like I said, business owners are able to write off the expenses.
That's good. That's good.
Well, yeah. The max loan this time on the PPP is only $2 million, and that is intentional so that more dollars can reach small business owners. Monday available for those who had not ever received the PPP, and then yesterday, folks who did get it round one can go in and apply for round two as of today. And don't tarry, even though the deadline is March. I can't remember. I just know it's March. I don't know if it's 15th or 31st. This time we only got $2.58 billion, and last time it was $258 billion. Last time it was $530 billion. So that means the less money was there. So that means funds are going to go faster. So don't wait until March applications.
All right. Kadena Javis with Javis Tax Service. Give her, log on to javistax.com, javistax.com. Are you already accepting clients for taxes to get their taxes done?
Yes, we are. The office is open. Our normal tax season hours, this Saturday will be open as well, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we'll be open every Saturday now through the April 15th deadline. Last year we had an extension to July, but it didn't come into March, not knowing if we're going to get an extension again this year or not. But I know once the new administration takes place January 20th, a lot more news is coming out.
Yeah.
Dealing with, taxes. Mm-hmm.
All right, javistax.com. Contact Kadena Javis. Don't forget about that number for the tax advocacy office, 1-800-829-1040, 1-800-829-1040. If you have questions about your stimulus check, don't call them until February 1st, but you can give them a call at 800-829-1040. And Kadena says, call them at 7:30, and maybe you can get somebody who just got in there early and they can take your call, and you don't have to be on forever hold. Javistax.com. Kadena, thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you so much for giving us all of this great information and for always staying on top of it. Fred Williams says, Kadena. Thank you, Fred, for watching. Thank you, Kadena. I appreciate you, beautiful.
All right, darling. You too.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great day. And
thank you.
With COVID show and have a blessed new year.
Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right. Kadena Javis at javistax.com. Listen, if you have a story or initiative that could help someone cope with COVID, please go to my Facebook page, Tailor Made Productions, and log on and message me, and we would love to talk to you about your initiative or your product and feature you on Coping with COVID. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, email copingwithtreitailor@gmail.com, and we would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, also Palmetto Media Connections, and Agape Counseling and Training Center, In It Together, and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. Now, coming up tomorrow, new year, new you. We're going to talk about getting your love and your life together in 2021 with Angela Carr-Patterson. She is a love lifestyle coach, and she's going to join us tomorrow. Next Friday, new year, new you. Our series is going to focus on your business with Betty Parker. And then next week, next Wellness Wednesday, part 3 of brain health. And pharmacist Nancy Richburg will talk to us about the COVID and flu vaccine and the diabetes prevention program. Then on Thursday, we're going to talk about post-inauguration and next steps for the administration. Anton Seawright, Joel Sawyer, and Bakari Sellers, among others, will join us. That's next week on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. As always, I leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. Today is January 14th. And Jesus says, "Let me bless you with my grace and peace. Open your heart and mind to receive all that I have for you. Do not be ashamed of your emptiness. Instead, view it as an optimal condition for being filled with my peace." That's good. Don't feel bad if you're empty. Fill it with God's peace. It is easy to touch up your outward appearance to look as if you have it all together. Your attempts to look good can fool most people, but God says he sees straight through you and me into the depths of your being. There's no place for pretense in your relationship with me. Rejoice in the relief of being fully understood. God understands us. Talk to me, God says, about your struggles and feelings of inadequacy. Little by little, Jesus says he'll transform your weakness into strength. Remember that your relationship with me, Jesus said, is saturated in grace. Therefore, nothing that you do and nothing that you don't do can separate you from my presence. That's your Jesus Calling for today, January 14th, 2021. I'm Tre Tailor. Until tomorrow, I wish you peace and abundant blessings and encourage you to please get a COVID test every week. It's free. Get tested every week. Get your vaccination if you are able to get vaccinated. It's safe. It's secure. And in the meantime, please wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. See you guys.
Coping with COVID. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdhec.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, Healthy People, Healthy Communities. In It Together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC, In It Together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID.